At 1 a.m. in the morning, the Strait of Hormuz carries no announcement, no ultimatum, no signal of any kind across its diplomatic channels, just darkness over 21 miles of water that controls nearly 30% of the world's seaborne oil, and somewhere inside that darkness, something enormous is already in motion. Before we dive in, comment where you are watching from and click subscribe. The first CH-47 Chinook crosses the Iranian coastline at 40 feet above the surface. 40 feet. The rotor wash kicks white foam off the water below, no navigation lights, no transponder signal. The crew is flying on night vision, the world reduced to green and black geometry, the horizon a thin, luminous line between sea and sky. Inside the cabin, 32 soldiers sit in full kit. Rifles, body armor, breaching charges, medical packs. Nobody speaks. The briefing was 3 hours ago. Everyone knows the objective. Everyone knows the timeline. Everyone knows what happens if the timeline slips. Behind that first helicopter, there are more, many more. But they are not flying in formation, and that distinction is not cosmetic. Formation flying is detectable. It creates a radar signature, a thermal bloom, a recognizable pattern that an experienced operator can identify and report. Instead, the aircraft are staggered at different altitudes, different intervals, different approach vectors, so that any single radar sweep catches nothing but noise. The full picture is invisible. The full picture is the weapon. And if anything that follows goes wrong in the next 90 minutes, the full picture is also a coffin. Yeah, the target is a rocky formation in the narrowest choke point of the strait, strategically positioned so that whoever holds it can observe, threaten, or interdict virtually every vessel passing through. Think of it as the lock on a door, through which 30% of the planet's traded oil must pass every single day. The lock has been held by forces answering to Tehran for years. Tonight that changes, but to understand why tonight is possible at all, you have to go back 18 months. The intelligence that made this operation viable was not assembled in a week. Human assets were recruited, cultivated, and maintained inside the target's operational environment for over 600 days. Signals intercepts were collected, cross-referenced, and deconflicted against satellite imagery that tracked not just the island's fixed installations, but the rotation of personnel, the cycling of fuel, the timing of maintenance windows. Analysts mapped a single island's defensive architecture down to the placement of individual sandbag positions. They built a model of the gap in the radar coverage, the specific angle and altitude from which an approaching aircraft could transit the detection arcs of the island's mobile radar unit without triggering a single alert. That gap was 340 meters wide. The mission was designed to fly straight down the middle of it. The operation was rehearsed 11 times. Different scenarios, different contingencies, different failure points, stress tested until the planners were confident they had accounted for every variable they could imagine. The ones they could not imagine were the ones that kept commanders awake. But there is no more time for imagining. The helicopters are already in the air. Fewer than 40 people on Earth know the full scope of what is about to happen. 4,000 soldiers, one night, one island. At 1:44, the first wave does not land. It orbits. 3 kilometers offshore, the lead Chinooks hold position while the Apache gunships push forward. The AH-64 Apache is built around one principle: see everything before anything sees you. Think of it as a flying sensor suite that happens to carry weapons. The Apaches come in fast and low, and their targeting systems are already illuminating the island's key defensive positions. 2 guards at the northern radar installation moving in a slow patrol loop, a vehicle near the communications tower, engine running, exhaust glowing white in infrared. Now a cluster of bodies in the primary barracks, most of them still, most of them asleep. The Apaches do not fire yet. They are watching. They are confirming. The rules of engagement require positive identification before the first trigger is pulled, and the pilots are methodical, running through their confirmation checklist with the quiet precision of people who have done this before and understand what it costs when it goes wrong. At 1:51, the confirmation comes through the radio. One word, a code. The Apaches stop watching. The first Hellfire missile crosses the distance to the radar installation in less than 4 seconds. The explosion is visible from the orbiting Chinooks. A bright white flash, then orange, then a column of smoke rising against the stars. Before that smoke has time to spread, the second missile is already in the air, targeting the backup generator that powers the communications array. The third targets the vehicle near the tower, which is not just a vehicle, it is a mobile radar unit, the crucial component of the early warning network that should have detected the approaching helicopters 20 minutes ago. It did not, because someone spent 18 months figuring out exactly how to approach through the 340-meter gap in its detection arc. The pilots flew straight down the middle of it. At 2:03, the A-10 Thunderbolt IIs arrived from the northwest, flying in pairs. The A-10 is not a subtle aircraft. It was not designed for subtlety. It was designed to absorb punishment and deliver destruction, and it was built around a single weapon, the GAU-8 rotary cannon. Imagine a sedan-sized gun that fires depleted uranium rounds at 3,900 per minute, strapped to an aircraft specifically engineered to keep it airborne under fire. When an A-10 commits to a target, the target stops being a problem. There are 3 hardened defensive positions on the island's southern ridge that the Apaches could not safely engage without risk of overlap with the planned landing zones. That is the A-10's problem to solve. It solves it in 6 minutes. The southern ridge positions return fire for approximately 40 seconds, then they stop by 02:09. The landing zones are clear. At 02:11, the Chinooks do not land all at once. A mass landing creates a mass target. It gives a defender a single moment to respond with everything available: mortars, anti-armor, concentrated small arms fire, and inflict catastrophic losses before the assault force can disperse. Instead, the landing is sequenced. First chalk lands, secures the perimeter, signals clear. Second chalk lands 30 seconds later, while the first is already moving toward its objective. Third chalk lands as the second reaches contact distance with the communication center. By the time the last helicopter touches down, the early objectives are already being cleared room by room. The soldiers move in fire teams, 3 to 4 per group, and they do not move in straight lines. They move in arcs, using terrain, using the burning wreckage of the radar installation as cover, using the darkness and the confusion that the Apache strike deliberately created. The defenders who survived the initial strike are not unsophisticated. They are trained. Some of them are veteran operators who have held this island for years, but they are operating in an information blackout. Their radar is gone. Their primary communications link is gone. Their backup generator is gone. They cannot call for reinforcement. They cannot transmit a situation report. They cannot reliably locate all the threats because the assault force is coming from multiple directions simultaneously, and the human brain, even a trained one, cannot process multi-vector chaos without information, without communication, without a clear picture of what it is actually facing. At 2:29, the communication center falls. It falls because it was always the priority, not for what it is, but for what it prevents. A functioning communication center means Tehran knows. Tehran knowing means Tehran can respond. Naval assets, air assets, political escalation, any option that becomes available. The moment someone in a command room understands what is actually happening, destroying the array was not enough. There were backup systems, encrypted satellite terminals, frequency-hopping radios that could push a signal out even under active strike conditions. So the assault team assigned to the communication center does not just fight through it, they strip it. Every terminal, every transmitter, every device that might carry a signal off that island is either captured or destroyed in place. The room goes dark. The island becomes, for all practical purposes, a black box. Outside, the fight for the high ground reaches its critical phase. The elevated positions on the island's central ridge are defended by a small, determined force laying down disciplined fire into the approaches. The 3 American soldiers take hits in the next 7 minutes. 2 are walking wounded, 1 is not. The team medic works under fire in a drainage ditch while teammates suppress the ridge, and the casualty report travels up the chain at 0234, a grim data point, reaching the operational commander in real time because the one thing this mission has that the defenders do not is a functioning communications network on encrypted frequencies the enemy cannot monitor. The ridge falls at 241, not because the defenders stop fighting, they do not, but a 2-element flanking maneuver executed through terrain that pre-mission reconnaissance identified as traversable puts assault teams on 3 sides simultaneously. There is no defensive doctrine that makes a 3-sided engagement survivable with the numbers available. Across the strait, in Iranian naval facilities, the first fragmented reports are beginning to arrive. And fragmented is the operative word. A patrol boat that passed within 12 kilometers of the island at 1:30 reported nothing unusual, because at 1:30 there was nothing on the surface to see. A coastal observation post that should have received a routine check-in from the island garrison at 200 hours received silence, which could mean a communications malfunction, which is not automatically a crisis. A signals intelligence unit picked up what might have been encrypted transmissions in the vicinity of the strait around 2:15, but the source was moving, the signal was brief, and the analyst could not confirm a pattern. The problem is not a shortage of data. The problem is that the data does not cohere into a picture. That each piece of information is ambiguous on its own. The missing check-in could be equipment failure. The encrypted transmissions could be commercial shipping traffic. The brief thermal signatures caught on one satellite pass at 1:45 could be fishing vessels running at night, which is not unusual in these waters. It takes a human analyst looking at every piece simultaneously to understand that what they are seeing is not a collection of random anomalies. It is a single event unfolding in coordinated layers, designed from the ground up to look like nothing until it is too late to matter. That realization arrives in Tehran at 3:12. By then, the island has been under American control for 11 minutes. At 3:01, the operational command net confirms what every commander on every helicopter, every soldier at every objective, every analyst in every operations center has been waiting to hear. The island is secure. Key positions are held. The defensive network is neutralized. The force is consolidating. From the island's highest point, a rocky outcrop at the northern tip offering a 340-degree view of the strait, an observation team is already establishing its watch position. Optical systems, thermal imaging, signals collection equipment, all of it coming online in the first gray light of a dawn, still more than 2 hours away. From this position, every vessel transiting the strait can be tracked. Every naval movement in the surrounding waters can be monitored. Every aircraft within range can be identified. The island is not simply terrain. It is a sensor platform, a communications relay, a fire control position, and a geopolitical statement wrapped together in 12 square kilometers of rock. Whoever holds this island holds the information that defines the strait. At 4:47, the sun is not yet up. A container ship registered in Singapore is currently 19 kilometers to the east, its crew asleep in shifts, its automatic navigation system steering through the darkness with no knowledge of what just changed in the waters around it. 4,000 soldiers, one night. The operation was not announced because operations like this are never announced until the moment for announcement has passed, until the facts on the ground are established, until the position is held, until the question of whether it could be done has been replaced by the reality that it was done. In the coming hours, there will be statements, diplomatic activity, crisis calls, emergency sessions in capitals across the region, questions about intent, legality, and what follows. All of that is real, and all of that matters But it will happen in the context of a new geography, a geography in which a small island at the narrowest point of the world's most critical maritime choke point is no longer held by the same hands that held it yesterday. The rules of this region were written over decades in blood, oil, and political calculation. They were enforced through the implicit threat of what could happen if they were violated. Last night, 4,000 soldiers rewrote one of them. Whether anyone in Tehran, in Washington, in the tankers, still moving through that cold, dark water fully understands what that means yet is another question entirely. The island is held, the Strait watches. And the long silence before the world response is already beginning to feel very loud.